My name is Ethan Ward. I'm 27 years old. I was pursuing my master's degree in archaeology at Boston University. The events I'm about to recount took place in September 2021. Unfortunately, I haven't been the same since. I still hear the screams in my dreams, the darkness beneath the soil, those cursed nights. I had decided to conduct my excavation near a town called Hollow, about 30 kilometers outside of Salem. It's a forgotten place, overshadowed by the witch trials in American history, rarely mentioned, and barely visible on a map. My academic research focused on local legends and cemetery archaeology, and Hollow was exactly the kind of location I was looking for. The town was rumored to be a refuge for women who fled Salem before they could be tried. One story, in particular, caught my attention, that of a woman named Marjorie Thorne. According to old records, she was captured in the woods west of Hollow in 1791 and burned alive. The villagers claimed she ascended into the sky in the dark of night. Such stories are usually dismissed in academic circles as embellished folklore, but I felt something different about this one, as if there was a deeper truth hidden within it. I began the excavation in an area just outside of Hollow, known among the locals as Ashen Soil. I had only my notebook, basic excavation tools, and a few scanning devices to help me analyze old gravestones. The townspeople warned me not to enter the area. An elderly woman, who called herself Edith, had said, "The place where Marjorie lies isn't sacred. It's cursed." I smiled and dismissed her words as the ramblings of old age. What a terrible mistake that was. On the second day of the dig, I discovered a hand-carved stone coffin about 1.5 meters underground. It was marked with strange symbols, most of which I had never seen in any historical sources. They resembled magical signs, but didn't match Latin or any other ancient language. My curiosity got the better of me. When I opened the lid, I didn't see anything at first, just bone dust and a piece of decayed fabric. But then, the air around me shifted. The wind suddenly stopped. The birds fell silent, and I swear, I heard a whisper rise from the ground. "They forgot me, but you will remember." My heart felt like it would burst out of my chest. I tried to suppress the fear with academic excitement. I took notes, packed samples. That night, while staying at a motel in Hollow, I had a dream. In it, I found myself staring into the eyes of a woman I was burning alive. Her skin was blistering, yet her eyes were alive, as if she was looking straight into me, touching my soul. "I won," she said. When I woke up, blood was coming from my mouth. From that point on, the science was gone. A fear, an obsession, began to grow inside me. Every night the same woman, Marjorie Thorne, appeared in my dreams, and each time, she came a little closer. On the third day, while digging beneath the coffin, I found something else. A stone circle buried in the earth, a reversed cross in its center, and 7 names carved around it. One of the names was familiar, Eleanor R. Ward, my great-great-grandmother's name. My heart nearly stopped. How was that possible? At that moment, the ground trembled. A light tremor, one only I seemed to feel. I wanted to gather my things and end the excavation, but I couldn't move my feet. It was as if something was pulling me back. Then I heard a breath from inside the coffin, and that dark whisper returned. "The blood of the one who remembers me is the key that will awaken." That night, I fled the dig site, but it was already too late. I tried to leave Hollow, but the GPS kept giving me the wrong directions. I kept circling the town, unable to escape. It was as if the roads were shifting, trapping me in a loop. And then, the first person went missing. By the second week, something had changed in the air of Hollow. When I first arrived, the town felt quiet and peaceful. Now it felt like a grave. People spoke less than before. The old clock tower in the town square had started ringing every night at exactly 3:07 a.m., even though they said it hadn't worked in years. The first person to go missing after the excavation was Ben Thatcher, the owner of the motel where I was staying. He usually brought me coffee at 7 every morning. That morning he didn't show up. I went downstairs and found the lobby empty. His coffee was still warm on the reception desk, but he was nowhere to be found. His belongings were untouched. I checked the security camera footage. Ben was sitting in the lobby around midnight, then suddenly stood up, as if he heard something, and walked toward the front door. And then, nothing. The screen went black the moment he stepped outside. I went to the police. Dean Mallory, Hollow's only officer, told me that disappearances sometimes happen. He said, in this town, some things aren't explained. They're just accepted. That's when I realized these events weren't new. The town had been living with this curse for a long time, and everyone had learned to survive in their own way. I began questioning myself. Maybe I'd gone too far. Maybe disturbing Marjorie's grave had upset some balance. That night, I couldn't stay at the motel. Somehow, I ended up back at the dig site, as if something was calling me there. The moonlight cast a gray veil over the soil. The coffin was still open, but it was empty. Marjorie's bones were gone. I froze. I heard a rustle behind me. When I turned, I saw Ben Thatcher. But it wasn't Ben. His eyes were pitch black. His skin had turned gray, lips cracked, and his voice, God, that voice. It sounded both male and female, echoing and distorted. The door has opened, Ethan. You're part of it now. I tried to run, but my legs wouldn't move. My eyes locked onto the symbol beneath a tree, the same stone circle I'd found on the first day of the dig. It had risen to the surface and formed itself. A red glow was seeping out from within. Ben took a step forward. Then he vanished. He disintegrated into dust right before my eyes. I somehow made it back to my room at the motel. My hands were covered in soil, though I didn't remember going outside. At least, not consciously. The next day, another disappearance was reported in Hollow. Sarah Emery, the town's school teacher. She hadn't shown up at school. Her house was found abandoned. That night, I had the same dream again. Marjorie was clearer now. She wore a scorched dress, her hair covered in soot, and her eyes watched me without blinking. This time, she didn't speak. She opened an old book she held in her hands, and I saw the first of 7 names vanish. Ben Thatcher. Then the second name slowly faded. Sarah Emery. The third name looked a lot like mine. But before I could read it fully, I woke up. The next day, while walking through town, I saw old Edith again. Her eyes were filled with tears. She's awake now. You disturbed her. She will be reborn with 7 souls, she said. Then she placed a small metal cross in my palm. This can only protect one person. You'll have to choose who. That's when I understood. Marjorie wasn't just a spirit. She was coming back. Not in flesh and bone, perhaps, but returning all the same. And every person who vanished was another step in her resurrection. In my excavation journal, I wrote this line that night. Marjorie Thorne is coming back, and I'm dangerously close to being her third victim. On the surface, Hollow looked like any other quiet American town. A few streets, a small church, an abandoned school building, and a kid delivering newspapers on a rusty bike. But I knew better now. This place was built on a much darker truth that history had tried to bury. The disappearances after the excavation, the cursed book in my dreams, they all pointed to one thing. Marjorie Thorne's grave wasn't just a grave. It was a seal. I spent days researching. In Hollow's tiny library, among dust-covered shelves, I found a few journals from the 1800s, fragments of old sermons, and a nearly charred book. Inside, I found Marjorie's name. But more importantly, I found mention of a group called the Cult of the Shaded Veil. This cult had operated in the late 1700s around Salem. They had no holy book. Their core belief was this: death is not a door. With the right summons, what lies beyond can return. Marjorie Thorne had been a priestess of this cult, and Hollow had been their hidden sanctuary. When I unearthed her grave, I didn't just wake Marjorie. I called forth the soul of the cult itself. In the burnt book I found, one passage stood out. 7 chosen sacrifices awaken the one sealed with 7 marks. The cult's soul takes shape through each blood offering. When the awakening is complete, the sky shall darken for 7 nights. So far, 3 had vanished. Myself, Sarah, and then, the next name to disappear, Pastor Glenn, the priest of Hollow's church. They found him dead in the bell tower. His eyes were missing. Written on the wall in his own blood was a single Latin phrase: Ille venit in tenebris. He comes in the dark. That was the moment I decided to leave Hollow. I jumped into my car, turned on the GPS, and drove. But it was no use. The roads twisted back on themselves. Signs changed. No matter which direction I took, I always ended up back at the rusted town sign. The town wasn't letting me go. That night, I saw Marjorie again in my dream. But she wasn't alone this time. 6 veiled figures stood around her, each holding a black candle, their eyes empty. They formed a circle, and I was standing at the center. Marjorie spoke. "You are the 4th key, Ethan. The bloodline binds you to us. Your grandmother couldn't resist either." I woke up to burning pain in my hands. On my palms were the same symbols from the stone circle, seared into my flesh, but without bleeding. When I looked in the mirror, my pupils turned jet black for a few seconds, then returned to normal. The curse was wrapping around me. Desperate, I went to Edith. The old woman seemed to be expecting me. That day, for the first time, she spoke clearly. Marjorie wasn't a witch. She was the first caller, the bearer of the knowledge that brings spirits back from death. Burning her wasn't the end. We sealed her soul, but you broke the seal. Then why didn't you protect her grave? I yelled. Why would you forget something this important? Her answer was chilling. We didn't forget. We sacrificed. Every generation, one of us gave our life to keep her asleep. This time, it was supposed to be you. But you dug her up. Now, there is no other way. I showed her the symbols I'd seen in the book. She went silent, then whispered, That is your bloodline. The wards have always carried this curse. Now you are the last. Marjorie didn't just want to return. She wanted me. And the curse of Hollow would be completed through me. That night, at exactly 3:07 a.m., the window of my motel room began to rattle. Someone was tapping on the glass. I pulled the curtain back. No one was there. But written in the fog of the window, traced by a finger, were these words: The 4th mark is complete. 3 nights remain. 3 nights, 3 more victims. And then, Marjorie would return. The last 3 nights were nothing short of a nightmare. Hollow no longer felt like part of this world. It belonged to another realm entirely. The sun never fully rose. The sky remained gray, misty, and dead. The town streets were empty. Doors were locked. Everyone was inside, but I wasn't even sure if they were truly there. Hollow had become a place where even silence echoed. On the 4th night, after the message appeared on the window, I left the motel for good. There was only one place I hadn't gone: the crypt beneath the old church. After Pastor Glenn's death, the church had been shut down, but old records mentioned that the crypt had been used as the cult's ritual chamber. That was where Marjorie had been sealed away. That was where the cult had supposedly been dismantled. With the cross Edith gave me in my hand and the last of my courage in my pocket, I forced the church door open. It opened on its own. A cold breath of air hit my face. From below I could smell rotting earth and old candles. As I descended the stairs, my feet seemed to move beyond my control. Inside the crypt, the ancient symbols still marked the walls. Dried bloodstains, names carved into stone. And at the center, there was a circle, identical to the one I had seen at the excavation site. But this time, in the center of the circle, there was a body. Marjorie Thorne. Not a decayed skeleton anymore, but a living being, clothed in flesh. Her eyes were black, her lips a bruised purple, her hair cascading in black waves over her shoulders. She wore the same burnt dress I had seen in my dreams. Around her, 6 hooded figures knelt silently, and the 7th spot, my place, was left empty. "Welcome, Ethan," she said. Her voice was both familiar and foreign, as if it came from my own blood. "Your bloodline awakened me. It's time to pay your family's debt." My head was spinning with screams, yet my feet moved. I stepped to the edge of the circle. The cross in my hand began to burn my palm. Marjorie's eyes turned toward it. "If you drop it, I will save you. You won't be part of the curse. You'll be forgotten forever. You'll be at peace." But in that moment, I realized something. Her voice was drowning out my thoughts. My true self was screaming from deep within. This curse hadn't just consumed me. It had devoured my family for generations. Every ward before me had been silenced or surrendered. I could be the first to resist. I tightened my grip on the cross. Blood dripped from my palm. As it fell to the floor, the symbols inside the stone circle began to glow. Marjorie screamed. The figures around her recoiled. "What are you doing?" she shrieked. "You summoned me. Now you can't send me back." But I was sending her back. The cross Edith gave me wasn't just for protection. It was the final seal. Blood, symbol of faith and will, activated it. The moment it hit the floor, the seal reignited. A dark flame erupted from the circle. The crypt trembled. Screams echoed from the walls. One by one, the cult members turned to mist and ash. Marjorie's body began to crack. Her skin caught fire, but her eyes were still locked on me. "You can't do this. You're one of us." "No," I said, "I'm not one of you. I'm the last of the wards, and I'm the one who ends this curse." Marjorie vanished. The crypt began to collapse. I barely escaped. The church burst into flames behind me, but strangely, the smoke was white, as if the darkness inside the town was burning away with it. When I woke the next morning, Hollow was different. The sky was clear, the air was fresh, birds were singing. The townspeople went about their lives as if nothing had happened. But in their eyes, there was something, a silent thank you, or a willful forgetting. I left the town that very day. This time, the GPS worked. The roads were open. Hollow was behind me. But the story didn't end there. Every year in September at exactly 3:07 a.m., I hear a whisper in my dreams. The same voice, the same words. If one of the 7 seals breaks, I will return. I am Ethan Ward. If you're hearing this story and ever find yourself in Hollow, don't dig into the ground. Some things are meant to stay buried.